All right, everybody, we are live and we are going to talk UFC 299 this weekend. That's the big talk. But before we talk about anything else, let's thank our sponsor, Game Up. Chevy.
Yes, thank you, Game Up, for sponsoring the podcast. Game Up's a hard hydration and adult beverage with a special blend of electrolytes. Comes in 4 great flavors currently: fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape.
Absolutely. Full flavor, low carb, and only 110 calories per can. And we thank you, Game Up, for sponsoring the show. And also, Chevy, tell people what we got coming up next week before we get started.
All right, March 15th, we'll be coming out with UFC Fight Night, Tuivasa versus Tybura from the Apex, I believe. A couple big boys in the tiny cage. And then March 22nd, UFC Fight Night, Ribas versus Namajunas. Looking forward to Rose making her return. Tough fight for her, though. And then March 29th, UFC Fight Night, Blanchfield versus Ferro, big flyweight matchup. Probably, number one contender fight.
All right, so some big fights on the way. But we got some big fights this weekend, including a little boxing. Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. Ngannou's second fight in boxing. Chevy, tell us, what do you think, how this is going down? When's it start?
So I think that AJ's gotten back to form after his 2 straight losses to Usyk, and I think that was like 2022. I don't claim to have any deep knowledge on the heavyweight division outside of like the top 4 guys, but I don't think he's fought anyone near the power of Francis, obviously. So with that being said, after Francis's fight versus Fury, cat's out of the bag. He is a dangerous opponent. I don't think people are going to overlook him. So I really think that AJ, if he's smart, he should be able to pretty easily outbox on the outside Francis. But with that being said, I do think at some point maybe he gets a little bit comfortable, reverts to form, and tries to lean on his power against Francis at some point. And I think it only takes one punch from Francis, that one mistake. And I think Francis is patient enough where he's going to catch him. So I'm going to say I'm obviously very biased. I assume you are as well towards Francis. So this is just how I want this to go. So I'm definitely picking with my heart, but I'm going to take Francis by TKO, and I'll say it makes it to like round 9, pretty late in the fight.
Okay. I have no confidence in this one way or the other to go a certain way for many reasons. I do want Francis to win, but, did Tyson Fury take Francis lightweight? That's not to say what Francis did wasn't phenomenal. But it's the same thing like an MMA or any kind of, like, one instance. We only have one boxing match to go. He shocked us, and that's great. And so if you put him in there with some lower level guys who are just starting out, I'm going to favor Francis big time. But now we need to know, okay, was this lightning in a bottle, or is this the real deal every time he steps out? Personally, I think if he can even hang with Tyson Fury on that level on any given night, then that tells me that he's something special on some level. And we know what he could do in MMA. So basing that on just that one fight and the fact that he's so powerful, and we know AJ does get hit, I'm leaning with you. And I don't think AJ, as good as a technical boxer is, he doesn't move like a Tyson Fury does, right? And that's saying something, because Tyson Fury is a very big man and shouldn't move that way, but he does. Mm-hmm. And so I think for that reason, I think AJ is very technical and he'll provide some distance and caution. But in the end, I think Ngannou will catch him with that power. That being said, man, I would not be surprised if Joshua keeps distance and is able to outbox him. As much as I don't want to see that, nothing's going to shock me here, because it's still just a very new experiment we're watching. But man, I hope, like you, that Francis takes him out, because I think it's just super exciting to see this guy doing what he's doing in MMA and boxing. I know he's got another MMA fight coming up, and I hope he doesn't, I hope his MMA skills aren't diminished either. Like, I hope he's killing it in MMA and boxing, and it'd be really nice to see this double combat sports athlete, just shining in this situation outside of the UFC.
Right. What a tremendous story he has so far, like from being in sand mines and then being homeless in France and everything to being world champion, lineal world champion in MMA and, this global superstar and now at the top of boxing as well. So it would just be another feather in his cap, cherry on top of the story if he can keep winning in boxing.
So Friday, March 8th, 10 a.m. I think they said the card's going to start, and it's estimated these fighters won't be in the ring till about 6 p.m. So keep that in mind for anyone who's going to watch this. If you want to have it on in the background while you're doing something, might be one of those things to do. It's in Saudi Arabia.
I think it's a $40 pay-per-view on DAZN if you're in America. So
okay. And I mean, at the end of the day, too, it's like, I think Saudi Arabia might be the only place where we're still going to be able to like sanction a guy with only one boxing. Right. Right. So, although if Francis wins this fight and he's 1-1 against two of the top heavyweights in the world, we might be seeing him come stateside at some point, too. I have a feeling. Yeah,
commissions don't want to give up that money to Saudi Arabia. I'll tell you that.
Right. Absolutely. All right. That should be a fun card. We got a really fun card this weekend. But before we talk about fun cards, we had a card this past weekend. Chevy, why don't we give us this a little quick?
Yeah. So normally we go over the co-main and main event. They were as disappointing as we figured the card would be. Bummer for, I assume you as well, but Tyson Pedro retired after his decision loss to Vitor Petrino. And also it's sad. He basically has to do it because, well, number one, he doesn't see himself being champ, which is probably accurate at this point. But number two, and the really sad part is he can't afford to be a fighter anymore. Even though he's been a professional fighter in the UFC for years and years, he can't afford to be a fighter anymore. So that just goes back to fighter pay. Obviously, we don't need to get into that. We got a lot to cover today. But then the main event, Rosenstruck, his takedown defense was improved. Shamil's takedown offense was terrible. And then he couldn't see out of his eye. And his corner basically was kind of lying about it. And so shout out to Mark Goddard for being on top of that and making the translator translate exactly what he said. We give the refs a lot of crap when they make bad decisions, so we need to call them out when they do a good job, I think, too. And so shout out to Mark Goddard for that. Really, the highlights of the card were earlier fights on the prelims and such. So shout out to Steve Urseg, I think is how his name is pronounced. He got a vicious left hook KO over Matt Schnell, and Vinicius Oliveira landed that killer flying knee up against the cage. Absolutely brutal knockout. I thought the opponent was dead for a while. He was down for a long time. Yeah, so that kind of saved the card.
Absolutely. And Mark Goddard, that guy deserved a performance bonus, like you said. Just chasing after that corner. Good on him. But like I said, wasn't really a memorable card. But this weekend should be UFC 299. Chevy, I like every fight on this main card. I'm pretty excited about it. I was in a hurry today. Are there some other fights you want people to check out before we get to that main card?
Yeah, honestly, this is one of the best fight cards on paper in like the last 5+ years, top to bottom for sure. We're not going to go over all the fights on the prelims, but it is worth watching every single fight on this card, even early prelims. So just couple big ones to look out for. Fun fight, Michel Pereira versus Mikel Olizejczyk. That's a good matchup. Pereira is great anytime he fights. He's jumping off the cage and doing like weird dances and backflips onto his opponent when they're on the ground. Also, look out for Pedro Munoz versus Kyler Phillips. That's an excellent bantamweight matchup. That should be a really fun fight, striking-wise. Gamrot versus RDA is on the prelims of this card. Yeah. Curtis Blades versus Jaltian Almeida is the featured bout on the prelims. What a great heavyweight matchup. Very big step up tough matchup for Jaltian. So we're going to find out exactly where he is. And Curtis, if he wants to get back in the title contention, he really needs to get this win and steal some of this hype. But let's move on to this killer main card. Let's starting off with Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. What a great card to start, or fight to start off the card.
Absolutely. Yan is 16-5, 7 KOs, 1 sub, 8 decision. The big thing is he's a former champ, but he's lost 3 in a row. Now, 2 of those were by split decision. One to former champ Aljamain Sterling, the other one to Sean O'Malley, that he arguably won. Now, his last loss to Merab was a little more convincing of a loss. However, guess what? He joins the club. Everybody's losing to that way to Merab these days. So no harm, no foul there. As for Song Yadong, 21-7 and 21 wins, 7 losses, 1 no contest. Might be a draw. 9 KOs, 3 subs, 9 decisions. He's won 5 out of his last 6. So he's hot right now, and he's got momentum, whereas Yan doesn't. Okay? So Yan needs this win a little bit more. I am not going to be surprised because Song Yadong keeps improving if he pulls this off. And I would consider it upset despite the fact that Han's lost 3 in a row because of who he is. But I'm going to go Yan still. I'm going to say this actually ends up being a KO win for him because I think these guys are going to throw down. So I'm going to go round 2 TKO for Yan.
Yeah. Has Yan lost his edge with these? I think he's lost 4 out of his last 5, 3 in a row.
Disqualification as well.
Okay, yes. And then, or is he just having tough luck? I think we're going to find out on Saturday because Yan on paper is a great matchup for him. He's a striker. Yan would have the wrestling edge for sure. Maybe a power advantage, but Yadong is very explosive and he is powerful as well. Very good matchup, but I don't think it gets much better for Yan. With that being said, I do think maybe he is exiting his prime while Yadong is coming into his prime. He's been in the UFC for a long time. He's still young though, so I think he's just now reaching his prime. He's like 26 or something. So I'm going to pick him. I think we get a war, like you're saying, but I'm going to pick Yadong by decision.
Okay, I'm not going to be surprised that happened. Like I said, I'm kind of seeing what you're saying, but I'm still going to hedge my bets on Yan. But I'm interested in this fight. All right, let's get to the next one here. What we got?
All right, Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena.
Jack Della Maddalena. This guy is 16-2, 11 KOs, 2 subs, 3 decisions. More importantly, he's 5-0 in the UFC right now. And he's won 16 straight. So he's 16-2. Basically, you might as well just be undefeated at this point. This guy lost his first 2, and he didn't like it, and he's never looked back. All right. But Gilbert Burns, different animal. 22-6, 6 KOs, 9 subs, 7 decisions. He's won 3 out of his last 5. But we're talking about a guy that some of the losses are to former champ Kamaru Usman, who, yeah, he got stopped, but he also rocked Usman at a time when nobody was doing that. Also, Khamzat Chimaev, he gave him his toughest fight at welterweight, other than Usman. All right, and he really brought it to him. So Burns is a top level fighter. This is a big test for Jack. I'm gonna go. This is gonna be a decision, I bet, but I'm gonna go Jack.
Jack, yeah, I'm a really big fan of both guys, but I'm big on JDM right now.
Yeah.
But Gilbert is the hype train killer, I think. I feel like I have to give the grappling advantage to Burns. Obviously, with his grappling pedigree, got to give him the advantage. I think the striking is a bit closer. JDM has great boxing, both speed and power, but Burns is durable and he's also powerful. So I think key to victory for Jack would be to land a lot of body shots early to try to take that, some of Gilbert's will that he showed against Khamzat and some of that cardio away. I'm pretty torn on this one, but I think I'm going to pick Gilbert Burns by decision. I think this has potential to be fight of the night, but I think I'm going to pick Gilbert Burns by decision.
All right.
If Jack wins, I think he gets a knockout, but I don't see that happening. All right, let's move on to Kevin Holland versus former Bellator fighter MVP.
Michael Venom Page. Michael Page making his debut. He's 21-2, 13 KOs, 3 subs, 5 decisions. He's won 7 out of his last 8. He's a highlight reel fighter. All right. Kevin Holland, 25-10 and 1, 14 KOs, 7 subs, 4 decisions. This guy's had a fight of the night. He's had performance of the night 6 times. He's tied for most wins in a calendar year. He's had most wins in the middleweight division, most bouts in a 12-month period. He's a workhorse. All right. Now, he hasn't been as active lately, and I think he's been trying to stay focused. So, I think a lot of people, I don't know, I haven't looked at the odds, would favor Michael Venom Page because he's that high-level striker making his UFC debut. I'm going to go Holland here. And for the simple reason, I don't think MVP has had this level of competition. I think this is going to be a big jump. I think Bellator really kind of helped him along in how they picked fights for him. That's not going to happen here. So I don't want to say I'm hoping for MVP because I like Holland too. But, hopefully for his sake that he has a good showing. Maybe he does win. Maybe I'm wrong and he KOs Holland. But I could easily see him getting taken down here and submit. Now, that being said, Holland doesn't always have the best fight IQ, and he does things he shouldn't do and maybe get into a striking match, which would probably be a mistake here. But if Holland's had it screwed on right, I think he takes him down and submits him. Round 2.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I'm a big fan of MVP style, and we know Kevin likes to put on a show and probably will strike with him, like you're saying. That being said, I'm just not convinced that MVP can do all that flashy stuff effectively against a UFC caliber fighter. So I'm going to pick Holland by decision, even if it ends up being a stand-up fight. I think Holland is tall and rangy enough and clever enough to avoid getting hit with a lot of that stuff and land his own things. So I'm going to pick Holland by decision.
All right.
And that being said, I don't care how this fight goes. I want to see if it's a catchweight or whatever, or he comes up. I want to see Wonder Boy versus MVP. I don't know why we made any other fight than that. That is all I want to see for MVP. But let's move on to the co-main event. I retract my previous statement about Burns and JDM possibly getting fight of the night. This will be fight of the night. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis.
All right, Benoit is 13-1-1, 4 KOs, 9 subs. He's 5-1 in the UFC. He lost his debut by decision. He hasn't really looked back. Performance of the night a couple times. But Dustin Poirier, this is his toughest competition yet. 29-8-1, 14 KOs, 8 subs, 7 decisions. He's a former interim UFC lightweight champion. Fight of the night 8 times. Submission of the night. That's right, back when they did submissions of the night. Yeah, 1 time. Performance of the night 4 times. This guy's just been in wars, right? And he's battle tested. He's been through it all. And rumor has it is he's talked about this could be his last fight. Now, I don't think that's if he wins, but if he loses, this could be it. Now, obviously, if another McGregor fight came his way or something like that. So I think what he's saying is he has 1 foot kind of out the door.
Always dangerous.
Which is bad sign, yes. But maybe I'm just not ready to say goodbye to Dustin Poirier yet because I'm going to pick him. All right. And I think it'll be a tough battle. But unless Dustin gets knocked out, and he's been through some wars, and he did get caught in his last fight, so it is possible, and I am picking with my heart, I'm going to say Dustin's going to survive the early onslaught. He's going to start to get in there. He's going to get a little nasty in the clinch. He's going to do what Dustin does, and I think he's going to take him down. I think it's going to be some ground and pound and maybe a submission. I'm going to go round 3, TKO, Dustin.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Benoit, but there are very few fighters I would root for versus Dustin, first off. So I'm impressed with Benoit's ability to come back after being hurt, and then he finishes his opponents. But that is exactly where Dustin thrives. He's a killer once he has you hurt. And even if Dustin is the one to get stunned first, when they start throwing in the pocket, I pick Dustin over anyone in the UFC, I think. So I think that's how the fight's going to end up. I don't know exactly when it's going to get to that point, but at some point, they're going to be standing in the pocket versus one another, and Dustin's going to land the shots and slip the punches from Benoit. So I'm going to pick Dustin. I'll say TKO. I'll agree with you. I'll say round 3.
Okay. All right. We agree on one.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this main event. Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera.
All right. Does O'Malley win? Randy asks. Oh, Randy, we're going to talk about that. All right. Chito Vera is 23, 8-1, 8 KOs, 10 subs, 5 decisions. He's won 5 out of his last 6 with that lone loss to being Corey Sandhagen. Performance of the night 5 times. Most finishes in UFC Bantamweight division history. So keep that in mind. All right. Sean O'Malley, 17-1-1, 12 KOs, 1 subs, 4 decisions. He's the current Bantamweight champion. Fight of the night 3 times. Performance of the night 5 times. You're seeing a trend here. These two are very exciting fighters. Obviously, the big thing is Vera has that 1 win over O'Malley. We laughed. Mentally undefeated. We laughed at that shit, and we should have. It's stupid. But at the same time, there's looking like there's possibly a little validity to this. This man has continued to improve. He's shown that besides the talent, he's somewhat of a fight nerd when you really listen to him. And I think that's part of his improvement is, him and his coach, Tim Welch, who seems like he's also just loves this game. They put a lot of thought into his stuff and they work really hard at it, and you can see the improvement. So that being said, has he improved over Chito since that last fight? Yes. I believe the short answer is yes. He has made a lot of improvements. However, Chito's an interesting fighter because he's the kind of guy, we've seen him in his fights with Font and even with Cruz, like he plays the long game. Like Chito, especially in a 5-round fight, he can take some hits and he can get stronger as that fight goes on. If this goes into the later rounds, how's this going to work out for O'Malley here? When we get to round 4, round 5. Now, he knocked out Aljamain in the 2nd round, right? And, the other fight that he had was competitive was with Yan. That was a 3-round fight. So I'm interested in that. I'm going to pick O'Malley. I'm going to say he clips him. And I'm going to say this show is going to keep going on for a little while longer. I'll say he does it in round 2 again. Because that seems to be when he's going to win. He almost, feels that there. But, and I'm not saying O'Malley can't win a decision, but this fight's going to get very interesting the later it goes. I'm just going to say, I would not be surprised if Chito finishes this guy in round 4 or round 5. But I'm going to, right now, looking at their early fight and just comparing the different improvements, I like O'Malley early on. I'll say he catches him round 2 TKO.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I don't think we've seen that much improvement, specifically stylistically. I think both guys are very similar to when they fought before stylistically. And I think that's what it really comes down to. As you were saying, Chito comes on late. I think it would be very wise of him to make a concerted effort to try to start earlier in this fight, put some pressure on Sean, make him uncomfortable, go for the leg kicks to show that, give him a look that he's going to try to hit that nerve again and deaden that leg like he did in the first fight. But I just believe stylistically Chito is a bad matchup for Sean because he can fight at that range that Sean likes to fight at, because Sean is so much taller than most guys in the division. He can fight much further away, but Chito fights at that range and he uses a lot of kicks. He'll kick the legs. He'll kick everywhere. And he's good at coming inside of that range, but I think it just makes it tough for Sean. So, and he's pretty defensively sound too, especially at that range, which makes it tougher for Sean. So I'm going to pick Vera. Again, I think he gets the TKO, but I do think we get those couple slow rounds, and I'm going to pick Vera later on in the fight. I'm going to say TKO in round 4. I think the O'Malley hype train is coming to its end.
All right, we shall see. I'm going to say I think this guy's going to roll on to one more, and then I think he's going to unfortunately meet the Marab train, which is going to happen for either one of these guys. So.
Yeah. And Marab, when he gets it, maybe Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah.
I don't know who else beats Marab
at this point.
Stylistically, yeah.
All right, let's tell people what we got coming up one more time.
All right, we have coming up on March 15th, UFC Fight Night, Tuivasa versus Tibera, big boys in the little cage. March 22nd, UFC Fight Night, Ribas versus Namajunas. And then March 29th, UFC Fight Night, Blanchfield versus Farrell.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us this week. Check out the fights coming up. And while you're checking out the fights, have some Game Up.
If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor.